40 hands.
Yeah.
Wasn't that toxic?
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
See,
Yeah.
I don't know who's.
Call the work session to order. Today's June 5th, about 4:30. Julie, go ahead.
I warned him. Andrew. Can you come up and give us a rundown on their little robot?
Yes. Hey, did you get a hold of Aaron?
I have not been.
I already warned them.
Okay, so
Couldn't go.
I believe this information has been sent to you, but I figured I'd print it out and give it to you again anyways.
Yeah.
So, what?
We got it.
What is on the agenda tonight is called the turf paint robots. What this does is this gives us the ability to take our man hours for painting fields and cut it down probably to about a third to a quarter. This is an autonomous robot. You basically program it with all your field layouts, push a button and one person stays with it to paint all the fields. So for instance, this coming weekend or Father's Day weekend, we have a big lacrosse tournament. For this tournament, we will paint 12 fields out at the oval. Typical fields that we paint for this lacrosse tournament are very basic. This robot gives us the ability to actually paint the full lacrosse fields for the players. The time it takes us to do this by hand is broken down, basically the third box by the number of fields, how many people it takes. So basically you're looking at 6 hours for one of our guys to go out just with our GPS unit to lay the corners out. And then 21 hours for guys with string lights to go string the fields, and then another 4 hours of painting. So everything broken down, you're looking at probably just in the lacrosse field for this one weekend, you're looking at almost $21,000 worth of time and material to paint this stuff on the ground. The rental for this turf tank is $16,000 a year. So already you'd save $4,000 just on the lacrosse tournament, not counting the soccer fields that we paint, baseball fields, football fields.
But there's more entailed to it.
Yeah, so this paint robot that we're looking at getting has actually been upgraded to have the ability to paint parking lots. So if we repave a parking lot, we can actually put everything into the robot's data collector and then paint all of the line stripes in the parking lot. Then we don't have to have another company come up and pay them to paint the lines.
And you would get so much paint.
Yeah, so within this $16,000, you get $3,000 worth of paint is included in this. There are 3 wear parts in this piece of equipment that aren't covered under the warranty. With the pro version that we're looking at getting, they give you a setup of all 3 of those parts every year. This is a 3-year contract for $16,000 a year, with the option to extend it for an additional 3 years at that same 16,000. There's also a clause in the contract that allows us to get out of the contract at any time due to financial hardship. So if we find that, hey, you know, this isn't working out for us 2 years down the road, we can basically call them up and say, you know, this isn't working out, you know, it's costing us too much money. And so I had done the first page was kind of a breakdown of what it costs us to do each type of field. And then Turf Tank had actually provided an analysis as well.
So are these your numbers or are these?
Those are the first page are my numbers, and then and then the following pages behind that are the numbers that Turf Tank provided, which are actually pretty similar. Any questions?
The demonstration was really cool.
Yeah.
It's neat to see.
And I'm gonna throw a shout out to the town of Plattsburgh. So the town is actually going to let us use their paint robot to do the 12 fields out at the Oval for this next coming weekend for the Father's Day tournament. So big thanks to them.
Obviously, these hours, it says 68, like in the first one for football, 68.5 hours less labor. That's obviously a guesstimation.
Yeah, so that's over, that would be the cost over a year per field.
Okay.
Right. And to be clear, it's reallocating the people.
Yeah,
Out of
so-
any work, you're just better use of the. time
Right,
that
so
we have,
with,
right?
according to the guys from Turf Paint, the robots end up using a little bit less paint than what our guys would typically use spraying it. And the biggest thing is the time. So when we do this tournament, we're allocating probably 4 to 6 guys for an entire week to paint these fields. Where I could probably go out with this tank in a matter of a day and a half, have all these fields done by myself.
So do you have to keep doing it?
You could do it probably, I think, once every 2 weeks or so.
Oh, okay.
But it's, you set up a GPS unit and you push a button and the robot automatically remembers where it painted all those fields prior. It literally will put the stripe right over the top of the stripe that was painted before.
They did it in the demo. It was so cool. Neat.
Any other questions?
I'm good,
Thanks, guys.
We go through what?
but you might as well.
$4,000 or $5,000 a year paint.
Yeah, about 5,000, I think it was 4,800.
$5,000.
Yep.
Hopefully, we can save enough, and we probably won't.
Yeah, there's two types of paint. It's obviously it's a proprietary paint, so you have to buy their paint, but they do it in a pre-mixed, which they send it to you, you put it in a go, or they send you a powder that you can mix with water, and you get roughly 2 to 3 times as much if you buy the powder. Talking with my guys, they've mixed paint before, so they don't have a problem doing it that way, so we'll probably end up going that route. The first year, we'll probably buy the pre-mixed stuff, but
Did you find out if you can add that chemical to it? Or
I have not done that. Yeah, we're still waiting to hear back on that one. So what Julie's referring to is we actually add a chemical to our paint that kind of stunts the growth of the grass, so we don't have to paint the lines as much. We have to make sure that that chemical doesn't have a reaction on either the wear parts or the paint, their paint. If it is, then we just.
Is a maintenance included in this or?
So they do have 2 trips where they come out. Like I
Okay.
said, there's 3 wear parts that are not included in the warranty. And they give us they give us a set of those wear parts once a year. It also comes with a free logo. So basically I could send them the City of Plattsburgh's logo. They could upload it in, and then any of the fields that we can paint our logo. There's a free text option, so we can basically type any text we want out, like Happy Mother's Day, and we can go paint it out in the oval. They got drones fly over the top of it. The other option we have is if, say Lacrosse wanted their logo painted somewhere for an additional, I think $1,000, $1,500, we could send their logo to Turf Tank, they could convert it in there, and then we could paint their logo on the fields. So there was a lot of different options with this. Okay,
Don't go anywhere.
okay.
7.134, the street resurfacing. Just out of curiosity, can you let us know which ones are new and which ones are done?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna have Michael join me.
Or if Michael wants to do it?
Great Boulevard was awesome.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm sorry.
I didn't
I'll
see it.
drive home that way tonight.
Done this morning. I wasn't
That's
straight
I never
yet.
know who does what, so Mike, that's my fault.
Okay, so. We'll start out by. You're gonna ask you, why are we adding streets? We finally got the state to send us an $10 chips allotment for this year. Did very well. I think they $240,000. Across the board, so we decided to add even more streets, and we were blessed with. Work here. So we've added New York Road, its entirety, from basically West Side Ballroom all the way down to the roundabout. Including roundabout. US Ave, which is 3 separate parts, you have US Ave, then to South Platte. You have US Oval. Or I'm sorry. The second one is Prue Street to South Platte to Bridge. So we broke it up into 2 parts, and that basically it takes us all the way from Clarence Carl's. Down to Rich Street or by G&G Tower, so the whole of them get repaid. Surface. We've also added in Couch Street and Helen Street. There are 2 that are, we've had some requests from our plow drivers, some smaller sections that need to be done, so we figured we'd add those in. Roughly cost wise, estimates come out about $995,000. So another $1 million basically to our paving push.
Like that little street that's right by the old T1 jail.
Oh, it's
Can't remember.
it's was it side street off.
South
Down set, yeah.
Yeah, it's out, no.
South, yeah, it's actually not in that bad a shade.
Well, that center is pretty brutal. in the
Yeah.
middle of it, but I mean, we're going right by it this year with the.
We'll take a look at it. For sure. So, but that's the streets we were adding.
So it's only gonna be 25,000 to do the expansion joints on South Catherine Street Bridge.
South Catherine Street Bridge, it should be 200,000. Yeah, for Perry Memorial.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
I think
looking,
it's
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking at that one.
Paving is 25,000.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So which ones are done?
Craig Boulevard and the Wheat Street extension, so we've done 2 so far. We've beaten the estimates on both of them.
Great Boulevard as well.
How long do you guys go into the season before it gets too cold?
So we'll give you some ideas here. We have already scheduled out. Next round will be South Platte, Stelter, and Pine Street, and that'll be the week of June 23rd. Beekman Street will be the week of July 21st, which that's a pretty big one. That'll be night work. And then the Meadowvale area, which is the week of August 18th. Meadowvale area will include Cherry Drive, Autumn, Kelvin, Spring Circle, Circle Grove. And then these new ones will fit in there. Have to obviously work around, 4th of July, Battle of Plattsburgh. Vacations are huge and sometime for us, so that's the tricky part of this whole process.
Do you have a guesstimation about New York Road, just in case I'm asked for the
I
50th
no clue.
time?
It will, yeah, if it's approved tonight, then I will, we'll sit down with the contractor and discuss.
Okay.
New York Road should be relatively, a lot of real estate to work with, a lot of lanes. We'll be able to, shift traffic around very comfortably and get it done, easily. US Ave is gonna be a challenge, so we can put the night work. Any questions, Andrew doesn't have the spreadsheet up for where the line is going, and attached to it, and this time around, we gave you, that's a letter we received from the state, that typical chips a lot in the letter. Gives you an idea, there's several lines up there. There's a rollover line, which is basically monies that haven't been spent. There's our allotment, then there's a total line.
I don't know if this next one is mostly for me, or if it's compilation of you guys. I know we're gonna try for a grant application for the retaining wall, but I'm just kind of curious. What I guess maybe we all might be, the overall issue. And I mean, the safety issue with it, and what needs to be done to rectify all that, just
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like it.
Yeah,
That's why I said I don't know what it falls under.
and then I can talk the grant portion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
So, if anyone's been down below, we've done a monument. We have basically laid up stone wall, stone masonry. I think back my second year here, the engineering department did a repair on about maybe 30 to 40 feet of it. Just time was taking its toll on it between the ice pushing through there and masonry, like any masonry comes apart. Also, we had a couple large trees that were kind of growing into it that we had to take out of the river last year when they went over. That tore the wall up. So we're looking at a grant not only to repair the sections that roll and try to not lose the rest of our property into the river, but also sections down below, I think Champlain Monument. Same thing, I know, there's been a couple of constituents, Carol Tucker was one in particular, it's made me, aware more than once that there's a little set of stairs that likes and goes late. That's needs to be rehabbed, there's a bunch of spots there, so this is a good thing, needs to be done. It's not easy work because it requires a lot of permitting, it's below in the river per se or in the lake. And that's the challenge of it all.
Are they just gonna be pointing up the?
I'm gonna leave that up to the designers. I mean, the section they rehab, they poured us, basically it was a poured wall with stone facing. Where did you guys, that way you laid up? I thought you laid it up again. You might lay it up again. That would be, I mean, I would like to see, they're gonna wanna probably keep it in the same. Manner as what we have there, but I would suggest a poured wall with stone here on it. There may be some historical, yeah.
It's big granite blocks, I thought.
Excuse me?
I thought it was big granite blocks, no.
No, that's up above, and actually that we talked to DEC into leaving those in, it did the rehab, the granite blocks are across. From the cleanup site
Oh, that's,
on the river there, and they actually would pull those out and just put armor of the shot rock. But kind of that granite holds up a lot better than shot rock because it the ice doesn't stick to that like it does shot rock, it allows anything that's the way it should, so. But I think what you're gonna see is like with Bridge Street Bridge and everything else, you're gonna wanna put it back in the way it is, but I think they could do a little bit sturdier.
Is it a concern? Is it a safety concern where we should put signs up there to say?
We
stay off
we
it?
have, we do have some barriers there, we probably could add some signs to it for sure. It's a constant battle, I hate to say it, vandalism, there's a nice Versalock. Wall down there, people are constantly pulling the capstones off of that, they're pulling the caps off of the wall, they're throwing them in the river on me. I mean, it's a never ending battle, we'll put some signage up, down there for sure. We could drive some poles, they could probably put some temporary fence if we had to. But we something decent.
Yeah,
Sure.
Made the news.
And the bridge, there are three pieces of our bridge
Cap.
in the water, the caps.
Yeah.
And we are, once the
Yeah,
water
you're
gets
full
down
down.
low enough, they are gonna go retrieve them and put them back on. Yep. If anybody does ask me.
it will eventually stop raining. I feel it in my bones. Yeah, I would love to hear about it. Yes.
Yeah, so I guess to build off of what Mike was saying, we have very preliminary designs put together for the scope of this project. So part of what the grant is gonna cover is not just the construction and implementing, but also the design work. It's been discussed that we're gonna look a little bit at that wall and obviously maintain any historical character. But also look at the functionality of how the wall does with the ice flows and if there's opportunities to maybe even change the shape of that wall to better create, movement of that water and that ice, as the seasons change. So, the project, like Mike said, is gonna, the scope will be in, I'm like looking at it's gonna be right there, but it will wrap around to, Champlain Monument Park, where there's also pieces of the wall that have been missing and have been sort of roped off for quite some time. I guess what's to note about this grant, it's a great opportunity because of the match. It's a 90%, 10% match. So the city, would be putting forward 150,000 of a $1.3 million.
That's the kind of grant that we.
So we need to capitalize on that opportunity, as they come, because they don't come that often. The application is due tomorrow, so we're hoping for a successful vote tonight, and then we can ship that off, for review by the state tomorrow. So, yeah, good deal.
This is the first year of this doing it, so.
Yeah, new program, so
Creative program, so hopefully maybe our wording is right and everybody else is, you know.
it also, and it's through the LWRP program. We recently had our LWRP passed and adopted, which only helps, when we put these types of applications in, when we've done that background planning work and we have those kinds of documents, in place to be able to say, hey, this has been part of our plan all along. So, yeah, it's great. Should I stay up here? Sorry.
No, I'm good. I mean, unless anybody, I don't know if anybody else, I'm
Thank
good.
you.
I got one thing for the guys. You did get down to the park in on Waterhouse and it was fantastic. All of that stuff got pulled away. The old car, the old cabling that was sticking out, all of it's gone. So it's a great job.
Now. The biggie, Chief Cromley. I know it's only been 2 weeks, but I'm hearing rumors and I'm hearing stuff, all good. And so I was wondering if you could let us know what you've done, what you've implemented in just the 2 weeks that you've been in there. I've heard rumors that you are doing specific patrols and stuff like that. I've heard really good. I don't know about anybody else, but I've heard a lot of feedback that we're seeing a lot of cars, a lot more patrol, police presence.
I've heard that as well, and I'm glad it's getting out there and we're being seen. It's a huge concern for us. But so June 1st, I implemented a APR, area of primary responsibility. Just to give you a little bit of context, every night, so if I work on Monday and Tuesday nights, I go in and I'm assigned an area of the city. And that area is complaint driven, so if I'm zone 1 and the city is broken up in 4 zones. If a complaint is received in that area or that zone, I respond to it. This is something different, this is something, it's a different kind of, or another layer of engagement, so. June 1st, we issued APRs to each officer, and each officer is going to be dedicated to a zone in the city for the remainder of the year. And that gives the officer opportunity to engage in a way that is much more different, it's not complaint, so it's positive. So if my area is zone 1, then when I have some downtime, I'm not responding to a complaint or doing traffic control, I will find myself either in a park, knocking on doors, introducing myself, hey, this is who I am, this is what we're doing, how can I help? Do you have anything that you can help direct me to solve? It's really a different way of engaging, really. So the idea is quality of life. It's not complaint driven. We like to think that we know everything that goes on in the city. We don't. In small little neighborhoods. I grew up in a village. I know what's going on. More than anyone else, and we want the residents to be able to deliver that to us so we can better serve them. That's what we're doing. That was a big thing in June. We have a couple more little things that I'd like to keep under my hat. I'm glad everyone's seeing us. We are out there, and I'm glad it's getting.
I don't know if anybody else has heard. I've gotten, a couple of my constituents have told me, mostly in Lake Country. I mean, because there was not a lot of interaction in Lake Country with police presence, and I'm getting told that there is. So that makes me happy, and that makes them happy. If they're happy, I'm happy. So
The repeated complaints we will assign, so we'll say if it's traffic, we'll make sure that we do the initiative so that the entire either shift or department is acting on it. But if it's a repeated thing, I don't want to say minor, but if it's an issue that we could probably solve by hyper focusing on, that will go to the APR officer, and we do have several assigned. So each shift will have one. We have 4 shifts. That's 4 officers dedicated. I'll also bring up that we have a very young shift. I don't know the city well. It's a way that we can push these officers out into the community, learn the residents, learn the areas specifically and intimately.
So a little bit of a shift. What about overtime? are we? How are we gonna look at that and address that? Cause that's been a big thing in my mind.
Yep, so I don't have that, that was in the third week, but what I do know is I'm hyper focused on this. Every week, we're dialing those numbers in.
Okay,
I will tell you that we are in a unique spot where overtime is being pushed, like the month of June is gonna be a big one. We have a lot of members in service. June is a big week that it's creating a lot of overtime. It's a justifiable overtime. I can't speak to it other than that. It's, they're serving in a different way. So we do have to cover the overtime. We're getting into our busy season, so we have 4th of July coming up and city events, but we're hyper focused on this. We're where we should be. We're not over yet, but we're where we
Right.
should be. We're just getting to our busy season, so to be fair.
thank you.
Sure, we'll talk more on. There's anybody else?
We had a good meeting at the beach the other day too. I don't know if they're gonna, if they're not, and where'd we end up with that?
Yep, so I reached out to Alliance for Positive Health. I guess I'll give that some context. We had a meeting at the beach with the beach manager. Within that conversation, made sure that he understood the process or workflow if he had issues, depending on what issues those are. And then some brainstorming was needles are an issue everywhere in the city. They do end up at the beach, so we want to make sure they have the right safety equipment, and then more so Narcan if so they so need it. So I reached out to Alliance for Positive Health. The person, the contact is out sick, unfortunately, but I will connect them to make sure that they have that resource, and I'm sure they'll do training. The Alliance since they can.
We're gonna have shove containers too, better, yeah, they have one shove container out there. So.
Should get refreshed.
Yeah.
I don't speak for everybody, but
Hate to, I mean, but that's part of it. So we have to make sure the Yanks floats, we have any outflows, should say.
We have defib units in the cars, or do we rely on the fire?
they're issued.
We do.
Yes, we do.
Okay, cool.
They're all up to date. We checked that, I think in February, make sure that, the pads weren't expired and they're all in service.
Body cameras.
I'm sorry?
A body camera, we'll see.
Yeah, so the policy is done. We're waiting for an MOU from the union to make sure that we're all on the same page. I'll keep dragging that one. I'm on a four-week launch period. Next week, hopefully by the end of the week, I'm ambitious. By the end of the week, hopefully we'll do a soft launch with 4 officers, one in each shift. We'll work out some of the bugs, and then 2 weeks later, after we do that data set, push out, we'll launch, July 1st. So it's ambitious timeline, but I'm hoping to get there.
By when, July?
July 1st.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'm good now,
Yes.
yeah. Cool. The Memorial Day Parade was really nice. Emma did a great job working with Chuck in town. The police cadets were there. It was really, really nice to have them there. Do you want to say some stuff? Because I'm not gonna sit here and do it.
Huge turnout. It was a
Good
huge turnout. Surprised a lot of people.
We came around that corner, you and I, we we came around and it was just wall to wall people. So it was nice. And the mayor did a wonderful job putting this together with
We had, that was a total team effort.
Yeah, it was-
We did it in a short period of time,
so many.
and I think we
people.
learned a few things. We had our final meeting the other day, and I think, it's something we can definitely grow on next year.
I thought it was.
Definitely
nice.
shout out to the town of Plattsburgh.
Yeah,
People,
it's
you know.
something, sounds funny, but we worked, it was really cool to see our.
They were helping
Our
the street.
DPW crews working with their crews, and we just all came together really nice. I thought it was really good. The memorial service was well attended.
Beautiful too. It was amazing.
Good day. The weather, Mother Nature helped too.
A lot more people stayed for the memorial service than I anticipated. It was nice. It's very, very nice. Anybody else? I can't do this. I'm done. I'm done.
Actually, yeah, I wanted to ask about the beer garden resolution. So they wanna do a beer garden for the block party on, Clinton Street. I know we do beer gardens at like the Parks Come Alive events and everything. And those are places where like, there are not establishments to get beer nearby, but in this case, you got Peabody's, you've got the one up pub around the corner, you've got, Pizza Bono and the Bono Lounge right there. I'm just wondering, like, wouldn't that take away from business?
This beer garden is to, as part of the Clinton Street Block Party event. That's an event that's being hosted by, a bunch of businesses on Clinton Street. So it's not a city sponsored event. We're just kind of facilitating the, permitting process and the organization process of everything. So, as part of that process, we do require that the people who are organizing the event contact the different business owners and residents on that street to ensure that everybody's in agreement that they're okay with the street being closed down and that's not gonna adversely impact them or their business. And we have to submit that documentation with request for the street closure to be accepted. Yeah, this is a little bit new. I think we're here entertaining a request from our community members. And so I think your point's valid as well in terms of, are we taking business away or are we creating opportunities to bring more people to downtown? And I think that's kind of what you counselors will be making this decision about tonight is, will we sort of support these types of events? And this type of a thing happening at an event, it might likely cause other requests to come in to have other types of beer gardens in our downtown. And if we're supportive of that, then that's, we have an opportunity to make this happen and see how it goes. And like with any event, whether it's something that the city is organizing or we have folks in our community organizing it, we always, do a little bit of a post-mortem to decide, how did that go? What were the challenges? Do we need to make any changes going forward? So, this is a little bit recent. We haven't, or it's not recent, it's new. We haven't done this in quite a while in terms of shutting streets down and having a beer garden. And so after this event, if it's passed and after this event happens, we'll definitely be reviewing internally to make sure that it, we liked how it went and if we want to do it again in the future.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's, I'm sorry. I think it's great because, I mean, like you said, it may facilitate other things happening. And let's face it, that's what they want. That's what, when I walked around with the mayor in the Sunrise Rotary, that was the big thing. They wanted to see more events down there. They want new things down there. They want more things. They want bands brought back. They want this, so, I can't see how this would be a bad thing at all. I really don't. So, but that's just my opinion.
Was Peabody's included in the initial like signing off that this would be good for that street, or is it more their section where they are down?
I would, do you remember if Peabody's signed so the businesses would have had to have signed off on closing the street.
Right.
Yeah,
it's just to sign off on closing the street, so I found your.
Yeah. So that,
I can't remember if much I lived in that.
That's around the corner anyway, really. They're just closing off Clinton, right? Peabody's is on Clinton. I haven't
Yeah,
been.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it? I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
go.
the entrance to it. So right now, part of our procedures when we intake these types of requests, again, this is sort of a little bit of a new one. And so far, our procedure doesn't say, please submit, some type of agreement that you've checked in with other restaurants or bars and, you have their permission or their support to run this event. That's not something we've done with other events in the city in the past either. And so I think we're always up for when we try something new, looking at policies and deciding that if that's something that needed to be adopted because, we needed to have more involvement or, agreement from other businesses, we could do that going forward.
Well, it's not the event that's the issue at all.
Yeah.
It's having a beer garden at the event.
Yeah.
Just that's the only thing that I'm kind of like wondering. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see
Valid.
with Peabody's, whether they had
Yeah.
more people come, because like Julie said, having people down there that maybe wouldn't have been drawn to the area before. And Peabody's is, if it's raining, that's where they're going.
That's where they're going. And I mean, who
So-
wants to stand in a really long line when you're parched? They'll probably go to Peabody's
Yeah,
anyway.
this might be good for them, so it's a good point. But
Yeah.
it's a good discussion.
Anna, do you know offhand what the hours of the street party are gonna be?
I believe from 10 to 5.
Okay, so earlier hours then.
They're having,
So,
I think they're having the beanbag,
Cornhole?
cornhole tournament there. In that area,
Oh,
so.
Yeah, I think it's always a good practice when we do things downtown to try to involve as many businesses and organizations as possible, because it's like all tides lifts all ships, if that phrase it. So I, I think we, we continue to reach out, and I think, like what you're saying, it's great that the folks on Clinton Street want to do something in the community, and we'll see kind of what comes of it, and I'm sure there'll be things that we'll want to improve on going forward too.
Yeah, no matter what we do, we get in trouble, so I figured that out, so, and again, it'd be like a food truck. Food truck parks in front of the restaurant down there, I mean,
there's regulations with food trucks though. They have to be a certain distance away from the front
this
door of
is
the
gonna be way
eatery.
down the other end of the street too, so, again, I'm not condoning it, I'm just saying, I'm just making.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if I sold something, if I had a restaurant downtown and you put a food truck in front of my place, I'd be a little bit upset too, so. I guess that would be the same principle, right?
just like they had this event last year,
Mhm.
but they didn't have the beer garden this year,
Right,
to my knowledge, so.
So let's see how it goes. Maybe it'll be better this year.
I hope so.
yeah, well, it's weather depending, right? Listen, I'm gonna stop that.
We'll take the.
Yeah.
we'll take
Do you
the
know if
feedback.
They have a
Do you know if it's a
Facebook
local
thing too.
provider or?
So,
I know sometimes Old Soul provides.
Rustic Pines.
Rustic Pine, okay, they did one of the parks events before.
Yeah. That went well,
I think it's good. to
even though it
engage
was
them.
20,
Oh, that's right, that was,
So, off that topic, I noticed there's a thing in here to approve purchase of. For study of the water park. Who decided on the, the artist that was being awarded the money?
We did a RFP for the artist a couple years ago, and that's when we had a committee review all of the submissions and then choose which sculptures were gonna be in which places. And then the sculptures sort of were there for a few years with the intention that like things would get rotated out. We rotated a few sculptures out, but we also had an art committee meet and discuss other opportunities for the art park and what we could do for programming and how we could create other art experiences. And so it was brought up that, we could look if there was an opportunity for grants that would further fund projects in the park, we should seek those out. And then it was maybe the beginning of last year, we were contacted by Billy Jones's office, and he had about $35,000 that he wanted to put towards specifically art initiatives in the city. And so he sort of directed that funding to a couple different initiatives that he wanted to support. One being many of the murals, including the one that's currently happening right now.
It's amazing.
It's really, really cool. And I think the third mural for that artist in our community. So that mural, the mural down at the beach, I think there's one more that is not coming to mind. He also directed some of that funds to our Lake City Art Festival, which allowed us to purchase some branded material, some tents, some advertising, some signage. And then the other piece was directing the funding to purchase a piece for the art park. And so
Did the committee decide on which artist they were gonna choose?
yeah, so that was the committee saying, we think that this is the centerpiece of the park. It's, we have heard a lot of good public feedback and that kind of thing. And so we approached that artist and asked if, they would be interested in entering into a purchase and sale agreement. They agreed. And so now we're able to take this grant funding and use that to pay for the cost
So at the
of that.
conclusion of this, the city will own that piece.
City
Right.
will own the piece. Yeah, there is in the agreement, also sort of having that artist say that he'll be available for maintenance and to look at the piece to make sure that, if it needs to be repainted or if anything needs to be repaired, the agreement would, we would pay him for his time to do that, but that he's, gonna make himself available to make sure that that is maintained. So that it stays in good condition. Yeah,
Is this the end of Assemblyman Jones's money for that? It
Yeah.
is.
yeah, so after this, all funds for that will be expended.
Okay.
Doesn't mean there's any shortage of other art opportunities in the community, so if
Right.
Assemblyman Jones is listening right now.
Every time he tells me you haven't spent the money I already gave you,
Oh, we spent it.
we're spending it, this will finally
This will be
spend.
the
and
final,
then
yeah,
Our resolution last week, we'll get the rest of the money at the Memorial Park.
yeah.
Once we gotta get a vote so he can stop saying that.
And I can provide, and then I guess also with the money that he's provided, last year, money earmarked to put in a bocce court in South Acres.
Which
That
we
was my
haven't
next-
spent
And we
either.
haven't spent that either,
No, I
but
heard that too, so.
that's because it's in his office's hands right now, so we completed the necessary paperwork, we have. Public Works obtained a quote for services, and so right now it's just kind of in the administrative phase, and so we're excited to implement that.
I'm hearing
project
about it all the
As part
time,
of phase
so.
two, yeah, so that's also, so it's money that's been earmarked, but technically not spent just yet. But that's all of it.
We gotta get that underway though. I
Every
mean,
time, he says, you haven't spent the money I gave you already.
Well, we could,
We're working on it.
we'll arrange it to a walking tour and we can go around and
Yeah.
look at all the things that.
Want that bocce ball.
Going back to the parties, I know we hired Foster on a basis to put up a tent. Why doesn't the city of Plattsburgh have one? And put it up ourselves?
It's a good question.
That's right.
You recently sort of went through this process of looking at tent costs and labor costs, and I think a lot of it comes down to, we have the tents, it requires also some expertise in setting the tents up. They're not
Right.
something that like our
Concrete blocks.
good old community development staff can, and so, we would, then we would start relying on the labor of other departments, mainly Public Works, our fields teams, and so, then we start to get into other types of costs incurred in terms of their opportunity
Overtime
costs.
and all that.
So I think,
Extra FTEs, he's okay.
that, over time, we sort of made the decision that it makes sense for the couple times that we rent this equipment, that we do it through just a third party and they're able to then set it up and take it down. Yeah, we do own a stage. But then we don't own a tent that goes over the stage. And
Yeah, and in order to rent a band shell tent, then we need to cover the stage, it's just as much as it would be to rent a stage and tents. From Taylor Rental, actually, it would be less to rent than it would be to rent just the tent itself that would go over the stage.
Gotcha.
That we already have, and also the stage that we have requires a lot of labor from DPW to set up and take down several hours. Where, DPW is already gonna be providing a lot of support for these events, in general, so. At the moment, it makes sense for us to rent these tents, but we are already looking into other stage options, and maybe some potential tent options as well, but,
Each one's different
Reiterate.
size too. I mean, each one's gonna be a different size. That's the hard part.
Right.
If you need a 30-foot tent, it's one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For us to buy them all would be.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good point too, to kind of point out that one thing we do every year is we work with really generous local businesses who provide sponsorships for our events, and that money then kind of helps to offset some of these costs as well. So, we've got lots of amazing local businesses that provide us with the ability to expand our events and sort of offset some of the costs that we budget every year. I think this year, I think I have it in my report, but we have about just under $20,000 pledged from local businesses to support our events, and so that offsets our publicity budget every year and kind of lowers that cost. And so that's sort of one way that we're addressing that in a little bit of a different way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'm assuming this is you, or maybe Richard, I don't know.
Richard.
Hold on, I have to put my glasses on. Look at him, he's pushing it off on you, Richard. I'm just curious about this authorized reimbursement of payments made for Quarry Road water by the town of Plattsburgh.
Yeah, that's, yeah, no, I mean,
What?
it was up on Halsey Court, I believe, Mike.
Quarry Road.
Quarry Road. Yeah, but it's up that,
It's home.
yeah,
It's actually.
yeah, that whole section.
So several years ago, little history, we supplied water, did supply water to the quarry road. The town would send us meter readings. And, we would bill out accordingly. Because we didn't have that hooked into their water supply. It was, that section was fed off the end of Halsey Court. You go all the way to the end, and in the gentleman's backyard, there's actually a valve there. That valve was underneath North Bay. The town undertook a water improvement project to where we're off their system. At that point in time, they shut off their valve. They informed us, our valve, actually, I didn't even realize we had that valve there, some time to find it, we're not comfortable shutting that valve off just because of the age of it, without handling of it. In the meantime, they never communicated with their office staff to stop billing us, instead of sending us the readings. Thus, we kept sending those, that's why we got the benefit. That very quick. Yep.
In a nutshell,
And that's,
Funny, we selected the township.
$5,870.
You're
Okay.
kind of billing them for their own water.
Right.
If you get away with it, it's a good deal.
It's a racket.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
We're working with the town on this too.
Okay.
Cause we do some things
the,
to help them too.
so supporting documentation there, so what we did, because it's a little bit of a surprise to me when it first came through and it had my name on it. Richard and I spent a lot of time along with my staff trying to figure out what was going on there and why this happened, so I asked them to send over supporting documentation. To jog our memory about when the line was completed, disinfected and energized. So one of the documents you'll see there is final test reports. For sterilization for the lines and indicated a pretty good time when they were then energized. Just so you know there, so I see for the stuff.
I'm good.
Nobody else.
Anybody else?
You know?
Good question.
Good.